Good morning, everyone. At least it's morning here. It is Saturday. So today we're going to do the Pathos Logos Mark II. I guess about a week or 2 weeks ago, we uploaded a quote-unquote unboxing. It wasn't a true unboxing because it's already been opened before. But I was so intrigued by the promise of this unit that I decided let's do a review. Pathos is an Italian company. The company manufactures products in Vicenza, which is northern Italy, and Vicenza is known for artisans. There are a lot of artisans that make wood, that make metal and jewelry. And Sonus Faber is also located in Vicenza. Anyway, the Logos Mark II is a hybrid integrated amp. So you've got two ECC82 tubes in the front for the preamp and then MOSFETs for the amplifier stage. It is rated 110 watts per channel into 8 ohms and 220 into 4 ohms. And it's a beauty. Pictures will not do it justice. You have to really see it and touch it. And also, if you get a chance, if you ever like something like that and you want to order one, order the one with the red wood as opposed to the black. Black just sort of takes away from the beauty of the industrial design. It's just absolutely gorgeous. The price is $55.95 US or 6,900 Canadian, and you have an optional DAC which you can order. The system that I used was the Eversolo A8 streamer, the DCS Lena with clock, also with the streamer built in, Hegel H190 integrated amp, the V, the Accuphase E3000, and the Sonus Faber Soneto V G2, in other words, generation 2, latest version, and a whole slew of Nordos cables. All right, first things first. When you carry the amp, you only have to do it once. Hopefully you don't have to move it back and forth like as a store we do. When you carry it, be careful because the heat sinks are sharp. Gorgeous as they are because the heat sinks spell the words pathos. They're sharp, so you want to make sure that you're wearing gloves, or at the very least, maybe have somebody help you. Although it's not particularly heavy or not very heavy, when you carry it, the heat sinks will dig into your fingers. Second note, once the amp is playing and it's fully warmed up, it will get quite warm. So make sure it's well ventilated. All right. Don't listen to it cold. Don't do any serious listening to it cold. Don't make any first impressions when it's cold, because when it's cold, it sounds blah. It sounds okay. It doesn't sound great, doesn't sound bad. It just sounds blah. Things are flat. There's no tension. There's no drama. It just sort of sounds okay. Thankfully, the unit goes into standby when you turn it off. There's a main on-off switch, and I presume that in standby, I didn't test this, but I presume in standby, there's still some power going into the amplifier to keep it somewhat warmed up. In any event, let it turn on and leave it playing for about 30 minutes as a minimum before you really do any serious listening. All right, just a bit of quick background. My first experiences with hybrids were all the way back in the mid to late 80s, I want to say. First one, direct experience, was in a power amplifier called the New York Audio Labs Moscow 300. Many of you will not know what I'm talking about. Old-timers like me will know, hopefully, what I'm talking about. There was a company that manufactured output transformerless amplifiers. And Julius Futterman, that's his name. My goodness, how do I remember these things? And I can't remember what I did yesterday. Julius Futterman made these output transformerless amplifiers that were the stuff that people spoke about in hushed tones. Supposed to be this amazing amplifier. Very rare. You never saw them. Cost quite a bit of money, especially for those days. And then this gentleman, again, his name comes up to my mind, and I can't remember anything that happened yesterday. Harvey Rosenberg ended up buying the company and then produced a line of hybrid products for amplifiers, and he called them the Moscow products. And I remember buying a used Moscow 300 and really enjoying it for what it was. It had this beautiful, rich tone. It had nice, big, fat, round bass. Highs were very sweet. Now, again, putting in perspective, back in the 80s, a lot of products were sounding the opposite. Solid state stuff could sound bright and harsh and edgy and quite fast, but not very musical. And here was this product that was the exact opposite. It was highly musical, but not particularly separated, not particularly detailed, no real speed, no real bass control, but it was always very enjoyable and very musical. And it had good enough power, 150 watts per channel. And then my next experience was when I started selling audio research audio research for a company. And the first hybrid product that I had my hands on, actually the first was the SP11, if I remember correctly, but the SP9 was a hybrid preamplifier. And we sold tonnage of those, so lots and lots of those. But I was never all that impressed with the overall musicality. It sounded like a solid state. It had speed, it had detail, it had soundstage, it had bass control, all those kinds of things. But it could sound a bit grainy. It could sound a little bit white, as we used to call it. Tonally deficient in many ways. And I was never all that crazy about it. The later units, the Mark IIs, and there were some modifications you could do to it that made it better. But anyway, so I had two very, very different experiences with hybrids. And of course, much, much later, Macintosh with their MA352 integrated hybrid amplifier is fantastic. So certainly there is a way to make hybrids sound very good. So fast forward, I was very curious to see what the logo sounds like. Does it sound like the Macintosh? Well, the answer, no, it doesn't. It has its own values. In some ways, the Logos is a bit more like the Morse code. It's a little bit on the richer side. It's a little bit on the more forgiving side. It has a richness in the tone that is quite beautiful. Not fully rich like, say, a pure tube amplifier would be, but certainly not as slow either. It's got wonderful transient characteristics. It's got a beautiful big soundstage. It's very well delineated and separated wide and deep. And it's got very good transparency. And so, actually, let me talk about the Hegel versus it. So that'll give you some sense of comparison. So after listening to the Logos, I decided, let me switch over to the Hegel. So keeping everything the same, making sure that the sound levels were the same, I listened to the Hegel, and it was like a polar opposite in so many ways, where the Logos had this nice, warm, rich, slightly softer, slightly more forgiving sound. The Hegel was more precise, more accurate, more neutral, where the Logos had a full, rich soundstage and everything was dense. The Hegel had very precise locations of the instruments. It's almost as if you took a pair of scissors and cut out all the images and just put them into the soundstage where they belong. Not that they're two-dimensional. They're still three-dimensional, but they're very sharply delineated as opposed to this rounder, more of a meshed sound. The Hegel was also slightly laid back, which is interesting. Not that it was laid back, relative to the speakers so far back, but rather if the speakers are sort of here, the Hegel was slightly behind them, whereas the Logos was slightly more intimate, especially with vocals. That became a very interesting thing. I found myself really enjoying simple vocals with the Logos, whereas with more densely orchestrated music, the Hegel was better. It was able to delineate better. I could hear things more easily. It was also more transparent, whereas the Logos tended to, smear's the wrong word, but tended to blend things a little bit more. So those were some of the immediate impressions. And then when I played some music with bass, like for example, Billie Eilish, What Do You Want From Me, the bass thump, with the Hegel, it was tight, it was powerful, and the room shook. With the Logos, the bass was a little bit more blunted, more rounded, didn't have quite the same kind of speed, didn't have quite the same attack. But then on the other hand, when I played stand-up bass, Holly Cole Trio, I can see clearly now. The stand-up bass sounded more real, more accurate, more lifelike. Whereas the Hegel sounded a little bit more precise, but more mechanical, not quite as real. Don't know how to explain that, just my impressions. Holly Cole Trio, in this case, Holly Cole, the recording has her very closely mic'd. So when she goes full voice and the recording is very good, but it can sound a bit hard. With the Hegel, you heard all that. It was not forgiving in that sense. It didn't make it worse. It just told you that this is how the recording is. With the Logos, it was a little bit warmer, a little bit easier to listen to. It did not exaggerate any of the sibilants in the recordings, and I found that more enjoyable. Which is preferable? Again, it sort of depended on the recording. With large-scale orchestral music, when Mike was setting up this room, we had Symphony Number 5 playing in the other room, and that was part of the playlist I was playing this morning. Von Karajan. Now, this is not a great recording, but I love his interpretation. With the Hegel, I could hear more into the recording because it's not a great recording. I could hear the instruments better. I could hear the separations better. I could hear the highs a little bit more airy. But with the Logos, I enjoyed the recording a bit more. So it kind of depended. Now, then when I played well-recorded rock, the Hegel was definitely better. So any of the Pink Floyds, for example, you could hear the beauty of the recording. You could hear how masterful the recording engineer had done on this particular job. And with the Logos, it was not as good. It was not as exciting. It wasn't as believable and as involving. Chopinesque, another recording that I use a lot by John Batiste. This is a piano recording of a Steinway, and when you hear John Batiste playing on the Steinway through the Hegel, you are shocked at the speed, the precision, the power of his playback. With the Logos, it's not quite as dramatic. It's still beautiful. In fact, the piano tones are even a little bit more beautiful. But the mastery of his capabilities, his musicianship, is more evident through the Hegel. So what do I make of all of this? At the end of the day, which is better? It's really hard. This is one of those situations where it's really hard to make a decision, at least for me. Some of you will be easier because it really depends on the music that you like. And of course the price. The Hegel is $4,600 US, and it comes with a DAC built in, and it has a streamer built in as well. It's a modern day integrated amp in every sense of the word. But aesthetically, it's industrial looking, to put it kindly. It's kind of boring. There's nothing about it. It's not ugly. It's just industrial, right? Whereas the Logos is an aesthetic work of art. It is simply gorgeous, especially if you choose the redwood option with it. It is stunning. I don't know anybody who has seen it doesn't go, wow, that is gorgeous, and then immediately think that it's way more expensive than it really is. But you have to add a DAC if you want a DAC. It doesn't have a streamer, so hopefully your DAC has a streamer built in. On the other hand, it is just simply a work of art when it comes to the way it's designed, the way it's built. It costs more. Then in terms of the music, if you like well-recorded rock, electronic music, you like to play things loud, I think the Hegel may be a better choice, because it can play at high levels and keep its ability to separate instruments and detail and speed and so on very well. Again, assuming the recording is good. If the recording is bad and you listen to a lot of average recordings, you listen to a lot of times simpler music, simple vocals, trios, quartets, etc., and you value richness and tone and slight forgiveness, if that's the case, then the Logos may be a better choice for you. And especially if you can really appreciate the beauty of the aesthetic design. I'm extremely happy that we have it. So that tells you how much I love it. And if I were to stop worrying about reviewing forever and it was just going to play music, I was retired and I was going to just play music either in the background or sitting down enjoying the music or whatever it is, the Logos, I certainly would not hesitate buying the Logos. And for that same purpose, the Hegel as well. But I have to say, there's a part of me that really appreciates how beautiful the Logos is. So anyway, that's the review. For those of you who've heard the Logos, or if you own some Pathos products and so on, I'd love to see your comments. Please put them in the comments below. If you've never heard the Logos, try to get to a place where you can see and hear and experience it, and then let me know what you think. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.